Hello everybody, Dewey here yet again with a deck profile that nobody asked for, but I've been playing Runick Fur Hire at my locals, and I went undefeated twice, and then also got second with this deck. It's very fun. This is not the final deck list, but this is the deck list we're working with, so I will show it to you today. Just so you know what we're up against, we beat a mirror match of all things. Branded Chimera, Ignister, Tearlaments, Pearly, Infernoble, and also Vanquish Soul. So we had like a very big spread in our undefeated run, which was exciting. Also, shoutouts to a few people. First of all, look at my business card. It's so cute. This was done by my friend Louise of Butter, Delicious Digital Design. Hey Louise, thank you. Shoutouts to Tommy for this playmat I bought from you. It's so cute. On the other side it has Rainbow Dragon, but this is all the Crystal Beasts. Love it. And then all the people who gave me the cards that I needed, Jackson, Geo, Chris, Memo, and everyone else from Galaxy. Appreciate you all for letting me play my janky decks at locals. Thanks for everyone who didn't punch me in the face when I drew 6 cards on your turn. You had every right to and you didn't, so thanks. Our deck list is in a few parts. First, we'll do our main deck, which is over here. I've divided it into the Fur Hire, the Runic parts, and then the tech cards, extra cards. And then over here we have our extra and side. So let's start with the Fur Hire cards. So the reason the deck is playable these days is because we are playing 3 of our friend Rex Fur Hire. He's very good. He does a few things. He lets us add a spell trap for hire from our deck to our hand if he's normal or special summoned, which lets us set up some chain blocks, which is really helpful. And then during the main phase, we can banish him from our graveyard. If we have a Fur Hire on our field, target a Fur Hire in our graveyard, either add it to our hand or special summon it. And it's any card. It can be a spell trap if we want to add it to our hand. Sometimes you do actually have to add things to your hand to make sure that your Fall and Wiz negates are alive. Usually what you're doing is special summoning on your opponent's turn to trigger your Fur Hires on field, which is great. I'm only running 2 Beat, the Warrior Bunny. He's really great, but there's one problem with the Fur Hires, all the low-level ones aside from Rex. They all have the same first effect, which says, during your main phase, you can special summon 1 monster Fur Hire from your hand, except another copy of itself. So I was running 3 of the bunny for a while, but then I kept opening multiples of him, and I couldn't summon both, which was very annoying. So I've been playing with 2, and that's honestly fine. Beat is our monster searcher. If a monster Fur Hire is summoned while he's on the field, including by his own effect, we get to search a Fur Hire monster from our deck to our hand. And so here are some of the things that we will be searching. I'll go from high to low. Rafal is awesome. He is part of the reason this deck works so well with Runic, because if you don't have Runic cards in your hand, you can use his first effect to excavate up to the number of Fur Hire monsters you control when he's summoned. Different names, except himself. Add one of those to your hand. So usually you'll be adding a Runic spell here. His other effect is he is a monster negate, but not destroy, sadly, by discarding a card Fur Hire. Very useful. His companion in arms is Wiz, Sage Fur Hire. I'll show you her. She's lovely. I'm not sure what she is creature-wise. She looks kind of human-like, but it's hard to say. She's a spellcaster. She is the spell and trap negate to Rafal's monster negate, and she's also really nice because when she's summoned, you can gain 500 life points for each monster Fur Hire you control with a different name except herself, which is great because I think sometimes your opponents will fight it out with you if you're tied in life points, but you still have like 8 cards. But when you're ahead like 5,000 life points and you're ahead in cards, people just surrender, which makes games a lot faster. Also great in time. And let's be honest, this deck is going to time a lot. So just making sure you're gaining life as part of your combo, very helpful. I play some other Fur Hires in the main, including her, that some people don't. Some people side her. I do like her in the main. One other reason to play her in the main is you can bring her out from the deck on the opponent's turn with IP going into another copy of Folgo if you think you're going to get like evenly matched or something. Quite useful. Seal is great. He's not actually a seal, I don't think. It's unclear what he is, really. He has the same first effect as all the other low-level Fur Hires, can summon one from hand with a different name than himself. And then if a Fur Hire is summoned, he gets to grab a Fur Hire monster from your graveyard back to your hand. So he's a really nice way to extend and also make sure you have cards in your hand for Rafal and Wiz. Very useful. Donpa, bless his little heart. He is our in-archetype way of making Folgo's draw 3 live. Same first effect as all the other low level for hires, summons from hand. But the second effect is if it's for hire summoned, he gets to target a face-up card, not just monster, card on the field, destroy it. Great. Very simple, very clean. It does target, which is annoying sometimes against things that can't be targeted. But popping that will trigger Fulgo and let you draw 3, which is awesome. We're not running his companion, the other level 1 or level 2 beast, which lets you pop set cards. It doesn't come up enough. Maybe in a different meta you would. Philo. Some people don't play him, but I think he's incredibly good. Same first effect as all the for hires. Second effect is if a for hire summon, you get to target a for hire in your graveyard, special summon it back in defense position. But if it leaves the field, it goes to the bottom of the deck, which can be useful for recycling things you actually do want back in deck. So usually what you don't want to do is summon back Rex with this, otherwise it gets put on the bottom of the deck and then it's not in the graveyard where you need it to be. That's all of our for hire monsters. It's a clean 10. And besides these, there's only 2 other monsters in the deck, and I'll show you why when we get to some of our attack cards. We actually want fewer monsters. In terms of the for hire spells and traps, we're running 3 Rookie for hire. This card is incredible. It's another new card. It's usually what you're searching off of Rex. It says, it's great art, Q. Also really cute art. We love it. Tribute 1 monster, special summon a monster for hire from your hand or deck whose level is 1 higher or 1 lower than the tributed monster had on field. Can't attack the turn you activate this card except with monsters for hire. That actually does come up. I've locked myself a few times in a bad way. So first things first, the monster you tribute doesn't have to be a monster for hire. So usually what you're doing is tributing a Hugin to bring out a beat, or sometimes a Philo. If your hand is weird, you can sometimes summon a Jerry and then rookie it away to make a beat, and then summon a bunch of things out of your hand if that's what you need to do. The other effect of this, where you can't attack, does come up because sometimes with your runic cards you need to go to battle and try to crash a Jerry to bait an interruption by trying to destroy something. If you do that, you can't use rookie, so you do need to be careful. The other thing here is 1 copy of Mayhem. Mayhem is very simple. Target a monster for hire in your graveyard, special summon in defense. You can only activate once per turn. So if you already have one of these, usually you'll just grab Mayhem. You could run fewer of these, but the reason I'm running this many rookies, you'll see in a second when we get into here. So that is all of the for hire cards. I love them very much. They've been very useful, and it's so easy to spam monsters on the field. Also, the reason that we're playing this deck now and not before is because Arise Heart was running around everywhere, and it was really sad when all of our monsters got banished. But now they don't. Okay, we are running 2 Fountain. Maybe one of the craziest cards ever printed. There's some really important words on this card, which says once per turn. That doesn't say hard once per turn. It doesn't say you can only activate that effect once per turn. So we often are drawing 6 just off of fountains by drawing 3, making another Hugin, making another fountain, making a Jerry, adding the other fountain back. You can do it several times. It's very fun. Very unfun for your opponent, but very fun for you. The key to winning, I believe, is drawing 3 on your turn and drawing 3 on your opponent's turn. The more times you draw 3, the higher chances that you win. They can sort of skyrocket exponentially. Next, Runick tip. I think everybody knows what this card does. Add a Runick card, banish the top card of your opponent's deck. You can also summon, but it's very rare that you would want to use that effect. And often what I see people doing, which I don't think is correct, is using tip just to grab fountain. I think what you want to do is get tip to grab another Runick card, which you can then use to make Hugin and then grab fountain that way. Then you have 2 Runick cards in the graveyard where otherwise you would only have 1. Some hands it will make sense to do that. Pretend there are 3 Flashing Fire here. I did borrow 1 and I had to give it back. But Flashing Fire is your monster pop. We run 3 because it triggers Fulgo, and we want to draw 3 off Fountain, and we want to draw 3 off Fulgo every turn. So Flashing Fire targets and destroys a special summon monster that our opponent controls, then banishes the top 2. We didn't deck anybody out, but we got really close. We had a Rescue Ace player down to like 1 card in one of the games we played, which was awesome. The companion to Flashing Fire is Destruction. It is one of the things that mills your opponent very fast. Target a spell trap they control, destroy it, and then banish the top 4 cards of their deck. Fun fact, you can activate this on a normal spell or normal trap or quick play spell while it's resolving, which will still get you the top 4 banish. That can be helpful because sometimes if your opponent doesn't have anything else that you can target to destroy on their turn, if they're just like setting 4 and then activating 1 normal spell, or I guess if they're just activating a normal spell and keeping everything else in their hand, I guess, you could do this. Or if it's like Fluanderies maybe, and you can't use Flashing Fire because none of those are special summoned. Destruction, good card though. Make sure to use it on things like continuous spells and field spells that need to be face up to resolve. I run 3 Slumber because it's very much a combo piece if you're going first. Always keep this one in your hand until last when you want to trigger your Fountain, because this can be used whenever. Whereas these guys can only be used if your opponent has something on the field. If your EMZ is blocked, this can be used either mode, which is very helpful. Make something indestructible once this turn, and then banish the top 3 of your opponent's deck. Also makes things unable to attack. That is a very useful effect. Also, it cannot attack this turn. Then, after applying this effect, banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Good to know that you can wait for your opponent to declare an attack, then activate this, because it doesn't say your opponent can't declare an attack, it just says it can't attack. So they can declare an attack, you can do Slumber on the monster that just declared an attack, and now it can no longer attack. It's done. Great, great, great. Freezing Curses. Negate the effects of an effect monster your opponent controls, then banish the top 3. Very good card. It's an imperm that we can search. Love it. And then the last 3, running 1 each of Golden Droplet, Dispelling, and Smiting Storm. It's very rare that you're going to use the first modes of these, so mostly what you want these here for are additional instant fusions that do not have the same name as these. So these add a little bit more variety into what you can draw. And so if I'm using Tip in the draw phase to try to get another Runick spell that we are going to summon Hugin with to make Fountain, I will often grab one of these 3 if we already have like a Slumber or something else that we can activate, so that we can then use them, and then they'll go back on the bottom of the deck, so we're not likely to draw into them again. Whereas if we're using one of these, we might draw into a second copy that's then no longer useful that turn. Great. That is all the Runick stuff. Most of you probably know the Runick game plan already, but the idea is do your searching in the draw phase as much as possible. Summon Hugin. Search for your field spell. And then if you have Runick Fur Hire, you can use that in the draw phase as well to avoid getting drolled, because droll really hurts. Okay, and here's some of our tech cards. I'm not totally sold on all of these. There's a few I am sold on, so let's start with those. The first is Reasoning. I gave a copy of this to my other Runick Fur Hire friend at Locals because I think this is so broken. I've never seen this card before. It's at 3 in Master Duel, which is hilarious. It's at 1 in the TCG. It says your opponent declares a level from 1 to 12. Excavate cards from the top of your deck until you excavate a monster that can be normal summoned or set. Then, if that monster has the same level as the one declared by your opponent, send all excavated cards to the graveyard. If not, special summon the excavated monster. Also send the remaining cards to the graveyard. What does this mean? This means you activate this, your opponent can ash it. If they don't ash it, here's what happens. You keep revealing cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a monster. Because all of our monsters can be normal summoned or set, it doesn't matter the rest of that text. You'll just get to a monster. If it's the level they declared, which usually they'll guess 2 if they see you're playing Runick, you'll just send it to the graveyard. If they send Rex to the graveyard, whatever, he likes being in the graveyard. If they don't, you will summon the monster. Awesome. And then all those other cards, which are probably Runick spells, are going to the graveyard, which means you'll get a much bigger Fountain draw. And the best part is if you mill Fountain in that, then you can summon Jerry to just grab back a Fountain without having to go through the rigmarole of Hugin and discarding a card. It lets you keep an extra card in your hand, which is very nice. We love Reasoning. Reasoning's friend, also at 1, Monster Gate. Monster Gate says, tribute 1 monster. Reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a monster that can be normal summoned. Special summon it, also send the remaining cards to the graveyard. So it's like Reasoning, except your opponent does not get to interrupt you, except with Ash. This is what you're usually tributing is your monster in the EMZ, so that your other Runick spells are still live, which is awesome. So if you can ever do both of these a turn, your opponent's going to be very mad at you because you're going to have like 20 Runick spells in the graveyard. Awesome. The rest of these are kind of whatever. Card Destruction, similar. You don't really care about sending your Runick or your Fur Hire monsters to the graveyard because you can get them back with Donner. So seeing what's in your opponent's graveyard can also be very helpful. If you're playing tier, this will be a little bit sad, but it's not always awful if your opponent summons something on your first turn, because then you have things to pop with Fulgo, or to pop to trigger Fulgo. I am playing 2 Ghost Ogre I have 2 different arts, which is very fun. The ogres are here for one reason only, which is to trigger Folgo from our hand. There's other niche uses for Ghost Ogre where you can like still use your monster effects under skill drain by using your monster effect, chaining your own Ghost Ogre to blow it up so it's not unveiled when it resolves. We've never had to do that, thank God, but you could. This is awkward when this gets summoned out off of Reasoning or Monster Gate, but it's not the end of the world because it's a Psychic, so we have no other Psychics in the deck or extra deck, so you can always use it to make Donner if you need to. The last 2 are Hold By and Enemy Controller. Hold By, generically good. It's really nice to not get ashed on your Fountain draw 3. It's also really nice to use on Droll. You do not want to be Drolled. Drolled sucks. An Enemy Controller, every time we resolved this, it felt really good, but we were mostly just testing it. I don't know if I would want to run more. I'm pretty set on these 2 staying in, pretty set on these 2 staying in. I'm not running a third one because it's so bricky, because if you draw multiple, you can't use multiple. And we don't want more monsters in our deck so that these can get max value. The rest of these, TBD, matchup specific probably. All right, now for our extra deck. We are playing 2 Hugin. She's amazing. Sometimes we use both on the first turn to get 2 fountains in rotation. She's awesome. What you want to discard off of Hugin is maybe a runic spell that you're not going to be able to use that turn, so you can just shuffle it back for an extra draw. Or something you can do is send like a high level Fur Hire that you can just summon out later with Donner from the graveyard. Any Fur Hire you pitch, as long as you have a monster you can normal summon, is fine, because you can just soul charge things back with Donner's effect. We're running 2 Jerry. Very helpful. Other thing about Hugin that I forgot to say, destruction replacement actually does come up sometimes, especially going second. If someone tries to like pop your fountain, you can protect it with Hugin. Very useful. Jerry, I love him. There's a few ways you can use Jerry. First of all, if you're going second, you can usually go to the battle phase, summon a Jerry in attack position if they have any attack position monster, and then go to attack, which will probably scare them. If they let you do that, then in damage step, you get to pop something. I might be wrong. You can correct me in the comments. It just says, when this card is destroyed by battle, you can target 1 card in the field, destroy it. Not once per turn. So you can summon both Jerrys, crash, crash. And now you've gotten rid of 2 things or used 2 interruptions. Just if you do that, you cannot do Rookie for Hire. So keep in mind, because you've attacked with a non-for hire. Also very useful for looping your fountain. Just be careful. He is a beast, which means he kind of interferes with Donpa, because if you have this and Donpa, you can't make Donner because they're both beasts. Speaking of another beast, we're running Run of the Sleipnir, the Runic main. This is like budget SP, is what I call it. Has a very useful effect. His art is also super pretty. During your main phase or your opponent's battle phase, the phase restrictions are kind of weird, so you have to do this during your main phase or your opponent's battle phase. You can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, banish both that monster and this card until the end phase. Very SP. And then this other effect has never come up, but it says if a card is added from the main deck to your opponent's hand, except during the damage step, you can special summon 1 runic token in attack position. That includes if they draw for turn. Weird, but works. The funny thing about that is that the token and Sleipnir itself could be used to make Donner. Funny. This actually trades really well with IP. If you summon this in standby and then they try to IP at any point during your turn, you just chain and banish the IP. Now it's gone. Great. Other things we have here that are not runic monsters. You guys go here, you go here. We have a Linkuriboh. I'll show you why in a minute. Actually, let's just do it right now. 2 Donner. She's great. She's new-ish. She has 2 effects. One we never use and one we always use. The first effect is the effect that non-for hire decks use, which says you can target 1 monster for hire you control and 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy them. The second effect is one we care about a lot more. You contribute 1 monster, special summon 1 monster for hire from your hand or graveyard with a different original name, not type, name, than the tributed monster. Then, if you tributed a link monster to activate this effect, you can special summon 1 more such monster. Okay, the important thing here. Usually you're attributing Donner itself, but you contribute a link 1 to summon back 2 monsters, which will give you 4 materials worth of things, because Donner can be used as link material. So you can sometimes use your Philo to make a link Karibo, and then tribute that to get 2 more monsters, and then you're really off to the races. After that, we have 2 Volgo. Volgo's crazy card. Also, thank you, Chris, for giving the really shiny one. There he is. He can't be used as link material, which is very funny if you're against Unchained and you just have this, because they can't use this to go into SP with your Volgo. If you summon, you can special summon a monster for hire with different type from the 3 monsters used for the link summon from your deck in defense. And then if we destroy something our opponent controls, actually if it is destroyed by anything, including Unchained destroying their own stuff, we draw a card, and then if we control 3 or more monsters for hire with different names, we draw 2 additional cards. So that says, pop something our opponent controls, draw 3, which we have many ways to do that. He is the reason this deck is so good. We have IP and SP, they're a pair. IP doesn't always go into SP, but when it does, you usually win the game, if it's allowed to resolve. And then often what I'll do is I'll use Little Knight to banish something that we need for follow-up and itself, if they have something that's going to board wipe or something. And you can make SP going second a lot. If you just make Hugin and normal summon anything, go directly into SP. Trigger its effect to banish something. You're not going to attack anyway, it doesn't matter. And then if they respond, you chain, banish itself with something else. And that should get rid of a fair amount of interruption. But IP isn't always going into SP. Sometimes you actually go into Volgo to get out a whiz if you need a spell and trap negate if they try to go to battle. Sometimes you go into Azalea. If you just need a pop, that can be very useful. If you need to trigger Volgo and don't have another way to do it. And then Unchained Abomination I never made, but it was in here because once you get into a reduced game state, popping something every turn is very good, especially if Volgo's on the field. And then finally, Underworld Goddess. I made her a lot, actually. She's really useful. You sometimes don't have ways to out things that are untargetable and or indestructible, and she is the way that you do that. Very useful. And then I often would link her off after that. Great. So that is our extra deck. There's definitely things we could tinker with in here, but for the most part, I really liked all of this. Definitely have needed the second Jerry, definitely have needed the second Hugin. But Munin we let go. All right, and then finally we have our extra deck. I feel kind of whatever about this, but here it is anyway. First, 3 Shared Ride. This was for going first. Sometimes our opponent would be wise and droll us or ash us when we were trying to draw a fountain. But then if you just use this on their turn as they try to start their long convoluted combo, it just will not matter because then you'll draw all the cards you needed anyway, which is great. D-Barrier is just generically good if you get to go first and your opponent is playing anything that uses the extra deck except for link monsters. This can shut them down for a whole turn, and usually 1 turn is all you need to get your show on the road and then just drown them in card advantage. So that is mostly what I would put in going first. It's probably worth putting in like a Judgment or something so you don't get blown out by things like Evenly. But thankfully no one did that to me. Awesome. Things I don't like are things that can't be targeted or destroyed. So this is here for Pearly. You could run a better Kaiju than this one. This is just the one I have. And then for back row, this is really, we don't like it. So we're running Duster, Lightning Storm, Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm can also blow up front row if you need it to. But I feel like I'm usually using it on back row. And then what we're really afraid of is Anti-Spell. Anti-Spell is a game-ending card, so I actually almost ran Twin Twisters over these, but no one ended up trying to Anti-Spell us, thank God. But this is here for that. But we also have 3 Runick Destruction in the deck to try to play around Anti-Spell, so there's definitely things you can do. Yeah, so that is the whole deck. Thank you for coming along on this journey with me. It's been very fun. If you have fun techs that you play in your build, do let me know. Would love to know. Feel free to join our Discord in the comments. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, everybody.